It is April 4th, 2026, day 36 of the war. For exactly 10 hours, the skies over the Tel Aviv skyline remain entirely clear of Iranian missiles. Sensing a pause in the conflict, the city breathes. The warning sirens stay silent. Residents leave their shelters, shops open their doors, and crowds gather on the beaches to enjoy the Mediterranean coast. They believe the worst of the barrage is over. Then, without a single warning siren, the sky fills with ballistics and cluster bombs. The 10-hour silence was a tactical delay. A massive, coordinated wave of missiles strikes central cities and major towns simultaneously. Defensive systems, including the Iron Dome, failed to track the incoming targets. Entire city blocks, police camps, and schools take direct hits, leaving massive craters where critical infrastructure stood moments before. This localized failure of the defense grid neutralized the Israeli public's long-standing assumption of domestic invulnerability. Heavy state media restrictions attempt to block the reality on the ground from reaching the public. But citizens capture the chaos on their phones, showing residents fleeing their homes in severe panic, many still in their underwear, and bypass the censors by uploading the raw footage directly to anonymous social media accounts. The shock rapidly turns inward. High-profile journalists and citizens alike point their anger directly at Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. On live television, senior reporters openly blame the leadership for failing to protect civilians and demand clear answers about when the daily terror will end. This chart tracks the immediate financial fallout of the crisis. The economic valuation drops straight off a cliff, logging a $112 billion loss that threatens to bankrupt the state entirely. The economic bleed triggers a secondary crisis on the ground. Fearing further strikes, a mass exodus begins. Citizens abandon northern Israel entirely, migrating inward and leaving vast stretches of the country functionally empty. Before any foreign power could officially intervene, internal political unity and economic stability had already collapsed from within. The localized war immediately escalates into an international entanglement when high-value American military hardware gets caught in the crosshairs. An American F-15E fighter jet crashes deep inside Iranian territory, leaving its pilot stranded. Washington initiates emergency diplomatic backchannels. They request a 48-hour ceasefire to retrieve their personnel. Iran openly mocks the request, stating that any nation entering the war zone forfeits the right to a timeout and denies the United States a single minute of airspace clearance. When the U.S. sends a secondary wave of rescue craft, including heavy-duty helicopters and A-10 aircraft, Iran targets them all. Military reports indicate a systematic takedown of incoming American drones and planes attempting to secure the crash site. The toll quickly climbs past 365 American casualties. In response to Western claims that Iranian launch sites are neutralized, Tehran reveals a vast network of subterranean missiles, claiming they have only utilized 10% of their actual arsenal. By weaponizing the airspace, Iran transformed a routine American humanitarian rescue into a high-stakes strategic trap. The violence rapidly bleeds into neutral territory. On March 3rd, a drone penetrates Saudi Arabian airspace and strikes a United States diplomatic compound in Riyadh, forcing massive evacuations and inflicting severe structural damage. Shortly after, critical infrastructure in neighboring Kuwait is hit. The targets are water desalination plants, facilities that convert seawater into drinking water, which these desert nations rely on for basic daily survival. This diagram maps out the logic of a false flag operation, a military action carried out with the intention of blaming an opponent. Iran forcefully denies launching the embassy and water plant strikes, accusing Israel and the U.S. of staging the attacks to frame them. The alleged motive is strictly financial. If Western powers can convince wealthy, neutral Arab states that Iran is targeting them directly, those nations might be forced to join the war effort and absorb the massive economic cost of the conflict. Strategic deception serves as a calculated tool to force neutral neighbors into a conflict they never asked for. The ripple effects tear through global defense networks. Romania, a crucial European supplier of drone components to Israel, abruptly cancels its defense agreements, delivering the first major crack in Western military supply lines. While one side loses its supply chain, the other actively rebuilds it. Intelligence reports reveal 4 massive cargo ships departing from China, loaded with the raw materials Iran requires to manufacture long-range missiles. Recognizing the threat to global trade, Europe scrambles. The Italian Prime Minister rushes to Saudi Arabia to shore up diplomatic ties, while Britain deploys naval assets, including an aircraft carrier, to secure the panicked Gulf states. A regional border dispute effectively redraws the defense contracts, supply chains, and political alliances of 2 separate continents overnight. The high-level geopolitics ultimately trickles down to the wallet of the average citizen. To defend against incoming strikes, the United Arab Emirates burns through expensive interceptor missiles, buckling their domestic economy. Desperate for capital, the UAE aggressively calls in a billion-dollar debt owed by Pakistan. Forced to pay up quickly, Pakistan suffers an immediate fuel and gas crisis, pushing the government to offer free public bus transit just to keep its workforce moving. The shockwave crosses the ocean. The Australian government issues stark warnings to its citizens, urging them to stockpile fuel immediately ahead of anticipated national shortages. The disruption of global trade lines triggers a 2.4% spike in global food prices. In a street market in Delhi, a standard plate of biryani jumps from 200 rupees to 350 rupees in a matter of weeks. The cost of survival in Delhi and the fuel supply in Sydney are now tied directly to the trajectory of a single missile strike.